We are live 364 days a year. What are we doing here?
If Dom turns at SummerSlam, I'm shaving my moustache off. I've told you, if that happens, it's going. My lip is cold because of a stupid bet that I made with YouTube.
Oh, good.
Wrestle's better than Daniel Bryan Daniels. Better than Okada.
How do you not get sushi after Monday Night Raw?
What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Thursday, October 2nd, and in the words of our great friend of the show, Fernando Zayas, it's time to light the fuse and ignite this Dynamite review. No doubt about it. Happy Thursday, everybody. It's Thursday. You know what that means. It was Wednesday, and you know what that meant, too. We've also got Numero and Superfly here with It's Time to Make a Return Now. It's time to join a group. It's time for El Idolo to join a group tonight in honor of the Muppets, featuring the second return of Andrade. Yes, shout out the Muppets and the Muppets. And we've got Zach Minger in the comments with International Coffee Day. I thought that was yesterday, but I'll accept it. And National Homemade Cookies Day. Might have to celebrate the second half of that, my friends. But before we do that, let me introduce my panel for today, my esteemed colleagues, to break down this Dynamite, to ignite the fuse and open up this Dynamite review. First and foremost, I don't get to say this often, but I'm going to keep it on the West Coast. West Side when we ride, no doubt about it. To newest member of the show, my good friend Mary. How are you? Happy Thursday, Mary.
Happy Thursday. Very happy to be here. My first Dynamite review, and it's in honor of the 6-year anniversary of the show itself. Very excited to be here. Can't wait to talk about it.
Absolutely. I am fired up myself. And not only that, Shoddy was at the original Dynamite, and he won't let you forget about it. Trust me, every time this anniversary comes up, I'm shocked he's not here. We've got Adrian Padilla in the comments with a woo. I love that. Absolutely.
Holy.
We got Sei with sometimes you got to realize the grass ain't always greener on the other side. And I guess that's what he learned. Yep. And then let's go. No doubt about it. Before we do, though, I do have to send this across the country, not the pond this time. We're going to stay in the continental United States to my co-host on a current show sold separately and a future show to be announced later, as well as the head of opinions, the man, the myth, the legend, Anthony Ricciardi himself. How are you? It is Red October. You got to be excited.
Yes, I am very excited for Saturday's first game of the NLDS. Yeah, it's my old stomping grounds, Thursdays for Dynamite. It's been a little while, so I'm very much looking forward to covering this. And let's get into this.
Yeah, let's talk about it. No doubt about it. Let's get right into the return. Obviously, we got Donnie DeSilva already in the comments with he learned the grass on the other side does wellness checks. Woof. That, I'm just going to leave it at that. On that one. Thank you, Donnie. Let's talk about Andrade El Idolo, though, and his return to AEW last night. I'm not going to lie. In a weird way, as much as we've joked about bouncing around and all of that stuff since it's sort of been talked about as far as fodder online, whether you're checking Twitter or Instagram or whatever it may be, that joke's been made 1,000 times. But weirdly, of all of the Andrade returns, whether it be to WWE, the AEW debut, the first run, or this one, I actually thought this landed better than I ever could have fathomed. I didn't really expect it to be so exciting, but it was like, no way that fast is sort of what it felt like. And so it actually felt surprising. And that part of it, I really didn't hate. Mary, I'm going to go to you first on this one, though. What were your thoughts on the Andrade return? Did you like it? Also, the Callis family thing, I'm not so sure about. What'd you think of that?
It's just like you said. I think this particular return actually hit right on the money. As dominant as he was to go after one of the top guys right now, Kenny Omega. I mean, to go from where he was in WWE not being televised at all to right off the bat just going in with the Don Callis family right after Omega, I think it was right out of the park. But I will say it's simple. Eat, sleep, join the Don Callis family, repeat. Like I don't know. I don't want to say any real negative things on the family, but I just hope it actually works out for him. But I'm curious about their Thanksgiving dinners.
Yeah, that has got to be an odd family Thanksgiving, no doubt about it. And it's kind of funny to me. They're almost getting NWO like, seeing the stance and everybody standing next to each other at the end. It's like the group's getting a little big, and part of me feels like it's been fun to see a lot of people join the group, but like, why are they all friends? Is Don Callis just connecting all of them? Is he trying to be Paul Heyman and just sort of call the shots for a number of different stars? How's he convincing them every single time? The other one is you got the hologram situation. Maybe I just don't have a keen eye or wasn't paying enough attention, but I really didn't get what was going on with that. I'm totally still not sure what's up with that. Like the clone, whatever we're calling it. It's just odd there.
It's even hard from back in the day.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to you on the same subject. What do you think about newest member of the Callis family, the El Idolo return? Of course, it was fun. Kenny cutting the promo, the classic good bye and good night and everything. Kenny versus El Idolo in any scenario on paper is just an outstanding prospect of a match. There's no doubt about that. But I do want to get your thoughts on the execution of the segment last night and everything that went down as far as the Callis family, and then the newest addition, Andrade El Idolo.
Yeah, the Don Callis family is essentially the United Nations. If you're international, you're with Don. And it's just, it's gotten to the point, like you said, it's like an NWO type deal where it's like everyone's a part of this group. And it's like, but what are you doing with them? Other than Don being a mouthpiece for these people, I don't really get it. Does that make Lance Archer the disciple? Like, I don't know what, or is he Virgil? Like, what is he? You know, this is one of those things that Andrade, I've always thought was a solid talent, but, you know, he's just returns at this point. That's all he is. He has a great return, and then nobody does anything with him. He left WWE the first time because he's like, I was not appreciated enough. So he goes to AEW. He gets a grand entrance when he comes there. And nothing really happened there. Then he goes back to WWE, makes a grand return. Then allegedly some violations of the wellness, as Donnie mentioned. That's the word on the street with that. And he didn't get future endeavored. He got straight up fired. That's why he had no 90-day non-compete clause, apparently, allegedly. So he returned. Great return to take out Kenny. Obviously, we don't know the full details of Andrade, why he got released. There's rumors and all that other stuff. I don't know if I'm AEW, I would have brought him back as quickly because of the potential issues that the dirt's coming out with all this stuff. But I'm hoping he does well. I'm hoping this isn't just oh, great, he returned. We're going to push him. We're going to have him against Kenny. And then he just disappears. And he just becomes yet another member of the Don Callis family. I mean, we had Josh Alexander when they brought him in. You know, this was a big deal. He was one of the most dominant champions in TNA. He's kind of forgotten. He's one of the forgotten members of Don's group. Like, he's barely a blip on the radar. So I'm hoping Andrade does well there, but the track record is not exactly phenomenal with his booking after the returns.
No doubt about it. And Donnie brings up a really good point here. He said, here's the good/bad. Andrade needs a mouthpiece, so a manager is a must. But his biggest weakness is refusing to improve his ability to communicate with fans, and this will not help him improve. That is a factor here. If Don drags him to the dance, and then suddenly we have to do he's no longer alongside Don Callis scenario, then where do we go from there? And he's almost provided himself with a ceiling, which I just sort of find odd in this scenario. Kenny Omega is a great first opponent in this scenario, this situation, though. That is the biggest positive, I think, of all of this. Donnie, with this shows that there are far too many heels in AEW who can't talk. I think that's kind of fair. There are some that can. There's a few heels that can talk. And I also think Moxley made an attempt at that, though, and it didn't necessarily work out so great. I don't know. Mary, I know you're looking to say something here. What are your thoughts on that?
It's like when Andrade was particularly in WWE, like, I'm sorry, there was no other perfect mouthpiece for him than Zelina Vega. So to go from as hot as those two were to now him back in the Don Callis family, it's kind of like what Anthony said, like the track record, it has to mark, or otherwise it won't. He'll just be disappeared in 2 weeks, not knowing what to do with him again.
That's what I'm afraid of, is if we have this conversation like 1 month from today, it might be very different. And you have something.
I mean, that's the whole thing. You do the Kenny thing, and then what? If I'm start saying Andrade in a 6-man tag on Collision, no one cares. No one cares. Like, are
It's
you going
so
to
true.
disappear like that?
Yeah.
That's the problem. There's too many people in that group. Like, Josh Alexander doesn't need to be in that group. You could be doing something. He doesn't need a mouthpiece.
To your point earlier,
Fletcher doesn't need a mouthpiece. Like, certain people don't need mouthpieces. Like, I get it. Like, you could. Archer doesn't need to be in there unless Archer's the bodyguard of Don. Yeah. I don't get the logic of him being there. Again, I understand for the mouthpiece for Takeshita, Okada, Andrade. Like, I get it because that's not their first language. But like other people that can kind of survive on their own probably shouldn't be a part of this group.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because you mentioned Josh Alexander, and I know, you have your history as far as being a huge TNA fan and following his entire career. People, not me, people other than me were critical of the booking of Alexander versus Hangman. I'm like, that's a big time match.
Yes.
I don't understand it. Donnie, who is friends of Josh, said respectfully, Josh does need a mouthpiece. I don't know, man. It depends on the time, but I will say that's hard to argue with because you are friends with him personally. But say there with the real question is, does Andrade go over on Kenny Omega?
He should.
I think that's the only shot, but I have a bad feeling he's got an angel that might be missing a wing in his future. It is all I'm saying. Yeah, a good old one-winged angel just to get things going there.
Honestly, the problem with any of these feuds with Don Callis family, I feel like and I've said this before on the show, whoever's feuding with a member of the Don Callis family, I feel like they're feuding with Don. Like, it's not really getting the other people over. They're feuding with Don. It's all surrogates of Don, and again with Kenny. Like, at some point, when does that end? When does the Kenny Don feud end? Because they're just bringing in new people to continue the feud.
And that's one thing that I find interesting because I've actually enjoyed quite a bit of some of the Kenny and Don stuff, but it's almost like we know how close their relationship is and like how close of friends they are, from the same place and known each other forever and all of that. And it just seems so obvious that they want to work together. That's why it feels dragged out. And it's like, part of me is like, of course I want to work with my buddies too.
Yeah.
Right. It would make sense. I get how you get there, but execution wise, it hasn't been exactly perfect. We got a few more comments here. Sky Blue, happy birthday, turns 26 today from Chris Leclerc.
We're the same
no
age.
Doubt about it. He also had to throw in that she is dating Kyle Fletcher, which I don't know if that is a factor in her having a birthday or not, but either way, Donnie added, Ant is 100% right. Nobody in the family gets heat, just Callis. I can't even remember the last time anyone in the faction cheated. It's a very good point. It's a lot of clean victories. I did not think about that.
I mean, the Don Callis family is like the guest star of the week. It's like the very Saturday Night Live of stables. Like, who's going to be the new one? Who's going to host this week? That's what it kind of is when they're bringing these people in.
I've got one more thing that I want to add before we move on to our next subject here, though, because we have plenty to talk about on today's show. But we had a question over on Instagram, and this cracks me up because it happens every Thursday. And so I'm not going to call anybody out by name, but it's immediately, who is John Cena's last opponent on Saturday night's main event? Any answer on a second time, like, so the topics are on the right side of your screen. The graphics have been made for a while, but we covered who John Cena's last opponent is on Wednesday. That's yesterday. On Monday, 2 times on the podcast and on the daily, and on the 1000th episode a week ago Sunday. So tune in on any day but Thursday, but we're covering AEW today. It's much love. I'm not trying to turn anybody off the program, but I'm like, listen, like that is not in the cards for today. And I don't think it's Brock Lesnar. I said that on yesterday's show. Either way, let's move on to our next topic here. Let's talk about the tensions rising between Hangman and Samoa Joe. And you know what tickles me about this? We had Samoa Joe working as a commentator in a poncho the day before he got released at WrestleMania in Raymond James Stadium at WrestleMania 37 as a commentator wearing a poncho, and not like a WWE branded poncho. Like they gave him a trash bag with a hood and we're like, enjoy this commentary segment here. Maybe he's not in good enough shape to wrestle. Samoa Joe looks like he looks like TNA Samoa Joe every time he's out there. I don't understand. He's ageless at this point, and it's incredible. This guy should never, if he's operating on the level that he has been over the last 2 years, be too far away from the world title picture whether it's AEW, any company he's in. And it's crazy because I think when it's all said and done, you look at a guy like Samoa Joe and you look at his TNA run, you look at what he accomplished in the WWE, you look at the fact that he's been able to play both a babyface, both a monster heel. He's been able to be a commentator that's likable, really likable. He's awesome on the microphone. Bell to bell, he can go with any style. Somehow, this many years into Samoa Joe's career, the guy's still underrated. And Hangman Page versus Samoa Joe could be an absolute show stealer in my eyes. And I want to know if you have the same reaction, because I love seeing Samoa Joe on my TV screen operating at a level where he's in the world title picture.
I gotta tell you, I love the fact that you brought up the rain delay during Mania. It's one of the greatest moments of all time. I remember texting my buddy Chris and went, "Are we literally watching a rain delay at WrestleMania?" No, but Samoa Joe is legitimately, and I mean this, he is one of the GOATs. And he is legitimately underrated. And to me, when I consider somebody a GOAT, like a legitimate GOAT, I look at somebody that can get over both as a babyface and a heel. And there's some that just only do babyface, some only do heel. It doesn't make them any less great. But the GOATs of the GOATs are able to do both. And Joe's been able to do everything in wrestling. He is phenomenal. I don't believe he worked with John Cena, or at least I don't recall it, because I know everyone wants the final match. I had to do that. I can't help myself. No, but Joe against Hangman, that's a brilliant move, because I feel Hangman's on this redemption tour to be as a world champion, because we all talked about, Clark, when we used to do the Throwback Thursday shows, the first title reign was not great. It was not great. It was a great chase, but the actual run was not there. I feel like they're making a legitimate effort with this one to make it feel like, okay, he can be a world champion. He's not just a chase guy. I feel like they've done that. Joe is somebody that even he can make anyone bigger deal, because Joe is one of the most dominant champions of all time in Ring of Honor, dominant X Division champion in TNA, great champion in NXT. The guy's held gold everywhere he's been. He is legitimately one of the best. The inaugural class of the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he went in. Probably a future WWE Hall of Famer at some point. He's somebody that Triple H kind of pegged to be the heir apparent to William Regal. Obviously, Vince had different plans, which brought us Samoa Joe in AEW. Joe could definitely elevate Hangman. Do I believe Joe's going to beat Hangman? No. I don't believe that. I wouldn't be disappointed, because I'm a big Samoa Joe fan. It's one of the pieces that I have in my media room is a piece signed by Samoa Joe. So I've been a Joe fan for a long time. But Joe's a smart choice. Joe's an absolute smart choice for this.
100%. And I'm with you. And we got a bunch of comments here that I want to run through really quick. Donnie here with Joe is one of my all-time favorites. He's nowhere near as explosive as he used to be, but nobody, all caps, changes gears as well as he does, so he hides his progression so well. That is the brilliance of Samoa Joe. Stylistically, he's adapted to – he's older now, but he still feels that – for lack of a better way to phrase this, he still feels like Samoa Joe. He's when you see him on TV, and I think that's the most impressive part, no doubt. We've also got one more comment. Sorry, and I'm not to cut you off here, but say he added, I'm not gonna lie, Christian and Samoa Joe have found a new career resurgence here towards the end of their careers. I agree. You know what it kind of feels like is like you look at Jerry Rice at the end of his career, wide receiver. It's kind of an obscure example, but if you're a football fan, Jerry Rice was, athletically unbelievable, in and out of breaks, one of the best route runners of all time, probably the best wide receiver of all time. In Seattle and in Oakland, clearly not the dynamic speed and explosiveness that you saw before, but still incredibly effective because he knows exactly what he's doing. And he was able to adapt to having to change a little bit of his style, but still play a role. And there's something to that when it comes to both Joe and Christian, no doubt. There's also this one here from Fernando Zayas, which is a world championship match being made because someone dropped their title belt on the floor is very lame. I don't know if it's very lame. I don't think it was all just that. If it's anybody but Joe, maybe I might complain further. I don't know. Really quickly, while we have just a little time here, Mary, do you have anything to add?
It's a little more than that, honestly. I mean, if you look at what happened when Hangman won the belt, it's like everyone said, without the ops, Hangman would not be champion right now.
It's very true.
So it's a little bit of build off of that, just for the two being relatively civil with each other, to have this kind of tension brewing, you know, like, oh, you think you're champ now, you think you're better than me, I'm Samoa Joe, you know. It's kind of building Joe a little bit to be the heel. That way it doesn't really brush the good momentum off of Hangman, I feel.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think you brought up a great point there. It's kind of like an I owe you one situation when it comes to Hangman and the ops there. And I think that's fair. But speaking of fair, let me talk really quick about a couple different things. Let's talk about just the schedule for the week. We got all kinds of good stuff. Tomorrow, we've got Ben, Shot, and Aunt You on the Friday show. Of course, the podcast released Monday. If you haven't seen it, it's excellent. Ben tries to go after me about Ricky Saints. Allison Analysis was on Tuesday. We predicted the WrestleMania 42 card on Wednesday as well. We're going to have the top 10 AJ Styles matches this afternoon, immediately following this. And then the top 5 takes of the week on Friday, followed by Allison Analysis Saturday. Definitely check it out. But also, check out Barista Coffee. Barista's small batch organic coffee created through excellence, authenticity, and unforgettable moments. Head over to barista.com. You are going to absolutely love it. The coffee's outstanding, super fresh. And not only that, they got a sweet logo and cool merch. You can get hats and visors on there. Totally worth checking out. But speaking of worth checking out, let's check out these last 2 segments of today's show. So we got more to talk about, including the timeless one, Toni Storm, who I think is just operating on a level that not quite anybody else is. Mary, I'm just going to go straight to you. We've got Chris Statlander and Toni Storm. I don't know if you can build a better main event match.
Just saying those two alone, like, I just don't have the words for it. If you want to talk about two just overall wonderful performers in the ring, they have truly elevated AEW to be as far as what it is today. To see them now actually going one-on-one between the two, it's going to be so good. The promo that she had, though, I do like the crash out Toni Storm a little bit. It's showing a different kind of side to her that we don't really tend to see. I mean, we did see it a little bit when she was feuding with Mariah May after she lost to her, but I feel like this is going to take it to just a whole nother level.
I'm totally with you. And I think it's one of those things that it's so impressive, the run she's been on since the WWE. I feel like a broken record, the amount of times I've talked about this. But we go from pie in the face to Australian rocker to she's now combined Sunset Boulevard, ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille, and Marilyn Monroe, as well as numerous other historical characters into this perfect match that fits professional wrestling in nearly every way. It's so over the top, but it continues to work over and over and over again. Every rivalry she's in, she could work against a babyface or a heel. It doesn't matter, but my eyes are glued to the television every time I hear Toni's music, every time she gets the chance to grab a microphone. What she's accomplished since she's been in AEW, and I don't want to give anybody credit for it but Toni Storm. She re-revolutionized her own career. It was a complete career renaissance, and she's at the absolute top of the game in my eyes when it comes to women's wrestling. Chris Statlander opposite her, I love. Stat gets often overlooked. She's a monster of an athlete, and I mean that in the most positive way. We forget Chris Statlander is absolutely yoked. Like, she is an athlete's athlete. Taking on Toni Storm, having Toni have to feel like she's going to climb another mountain in this sense, I think is absolutely brilliant. And I do want to get your opinion on it just because we got time. Do you think Chris is the one to finally take not finally, but to take this title off of Toni Storm? Or do you think this Toni's reign continues? Because I don't think it's time. She's timeless, and I don't think time's up yet. At least not me.
Well, she did take the title off of timeless Toni Storm. already.
Technically, yes, but I
Yes.
mean,
No, here's the thing. Tony Storm, in my opinion, there is nobody that has jumped ship from WWE to AEW that became a bigger star other than to the level of Tony Storm. Because everyone else is pretty much in the same spot or a little lower. Tony found the character. Could that character have worked in WWE? Maybe. But you look at somebody like The Undertaker. The Undertaker character really only worked in WWE. The Sandman only in ECW. You know, there's certain ones where they're just at the right place at the right time to make it work. And that's her thing. I've said this before. Toni Storm does not need the world title. She's over. She's got a unique character like Roddy Piper back in the day, or even a Dusty Rhodes. They didn't need the belt. They were the star. They elevated the title just by having it. She doesn't really need it. Chris Statlander's kind of been in this weird position booking-wise, where it's, you know, she was the alien or some nonsense when she started in AEW, and she's trying to, they made her a heel for the feud with Willow, and then they were like, we're ignoring that. I'm like, I don't know what they're doing with her. But if this is the direction you want to make her a champion, then yes, have her beat Tony clean, not just the quick roll-up thing that she did, at All Out to win the title. Get her over. Tony doesn't need it. Tony could, take some time off and then return. Maybe she goes after Mercedes' belt. Maybe she takes all Mercedes titles. I don't know. Because at some point, Mercedes needs to lose the dozen titles that she has. So why not Tony?
Honestly.
I do agree. And I apologize, by the way. I totally misspoke there. Obviously, Chris Statlander is the AEW Women's World Champion. I meant more long-term. Is she the one that fully ends the Toni Storm being at the top of the card reign? And you basically actually answered what I was trying to ask. So thank you.
No. Honestly, Tony is so big that I don't think anybody can necessarily fill that void. That character is just so over. When she was off of TV and Mariah had the belt, there was a void. She couldn't even fill it, even pretending to be Toni Storm.
There's
nobody that can.
This is my slight gripe too. I'm with you on that. Even Mariah May, once she won the title, it was like, it felt a little bit like that Hangman first reign. Like
yes.
you brought up earlier. Benjamin Davis, great friend of the show, said maybe Chris winning was just a big shock moment. And that's a little bit my fear, because then you just put the title right back on Toni Storm. And what does it do for Chris Statlander other than pad statistics? And Mary, that's something I want to ask you about when it comes to this subject as well. Do you think it's too soon to just put the title right back on Toni Storm, or are you cool with that? Because now Chris is a former women's world champion, and it adds to the stats.
No, give Chris the push, man. It's needed. She's been around for so long. I mean, she was such a dominant TBS champion in the very beginning, but this world title run, I feel, is gonna kind of give Toni the break that she deserves. She has had the company on her back. Her back is hurting from the 6 years of just dedication and great in-ring work with her particular feuds, rather than just win. She'll put people over, I feel, if she needs to. And that's what I love about her personally.
Absolutely.
I think her character so overshadows, Toni Storm's character so overshadows, that the only way Statlander could really get that point, she needs to beat Toni clean. You got to take Toni off TV for a while. I legitimately, because when she's there, what are you doing with Toni?
That's the problem. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, she's just so big. What are you going to do with her? Unless you have her go after Monet, or you make her go to Ring of Honor and go after Athena. But like, really, what does that do for Athena? She had the belt for 1,000 days. You're just going to have her lose to Toni? Like, it's a problem. Like, she's so big.
It's interesting. It's almost like she's elevated herself to a point where even like Mercedes Moné, who, obviously Sasha Banks and her history and whatnot, didn't actually feel like the name that stood out on that marquee when they had their rivalry. And that's a testament to Toni. That is not a knock on Mercedes. I want to be clear on that. Like,
the interesting part of that was Mercedes had all those belts, and they all felt insignificant compared to Toni's one. which is smart for AEW standpoint because that
true.
is supposed to be the biggest title. But it looked amateur hour because nobody can name all those belts. Like, let's be real. Most people cannot name all those belts that Mercedes is dragging around.
Yeah, that is such a good point. Okay, let's get into our main event of the evening, last night's main event of the evening as well. We've got a mixed tag team match. Darby Allin and Chris Statlander taking on the Death Riders. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. All I could think when I watched this was how bad was that walk from Marina Shafir back to the locker room after the thumbtacks in the feet. Oh, it gave me the heebie-jeebies. I'm like, what in the world? She's got to walk back to somebody help her back so she's not have to keep stepping on him. That sounds hideous. And then obviously we've got Moxley after, the loss. Darby Allin via coffin drop picks up the victory for their side. Moxley ends up, letting Darby know that, the Death Riders sort of swarm and lets him know he's going to make him quit for the first time in his life. You're also starting to see those scars on Moxley's head from all those blade jobs over the last 2 years, which I thought was an awesome visual with the camera angle in that moment in and of itself. Tony Storm, of course, there's a lot of stuff post-match going on there and everything. I enjoyed this. I'm excited for Darby and Mox, other than I'm nervous about how far are they going to push this for I Quit. How far are they going to push this thing? I'm still excited for Tony and Statlander. And also my heart just goes out to Marina Shafir for walking on. It's just ridiculous. Mary, I'm going to go to you first on this one. What were your thoughts? We got Wrestle Dream. We've got both Darby and Mox, and then Stat and Tony Storm set up. It's a pretty darn good looking card here. And what were your thoughts of the finish show last night?
It's like you said, I hope Marina didn't have to walk back on those feet, man. I hope Yuta or Claudio gave her a piggyback ride or something. Oh, I felt so bad. That spot was great. It was great, but it made me cringe. Oh, it was so good. But honestly, I gotta give Marina her flowers a little bit. Like, honestly, she has really grown from just, again, not being showcased at all to just this dominant heel that we kind of needed. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but we don't really have a lot of dominant heel women besides Mercedes. So to see Marina and Chris just have it out in this match, it really almost gave Marina a much better showcase than Chris a little bit. It just showed the extremeness of her, the willingness to how far she's going to go just to beat. And I really enjoyed this match, honestly.
No doubt about it. I'm with you. And it's funny. I've been saying it for a long time, Mary. And obviously you've been watching the show long before you were a member of the show. But when it comes to the Death Riders, I think the one that was benefited the greatest was Marina Shafir. 100%. By miles, because she's a real life butt kicker. Like, right? She could choke about anybody out on the roster, male or female. It doesn't really matter. Like, she's one of those people that, like, if you grab her, you're in trouble. If she grabs you, you're dead. Like, she's that good of a grappler, And the look, the strength, the character work, since she's been a part of the Death Riders and featured on TV more, it was awesome to see her show it in the ring. She didn't show it in the ring a ton during the run, but it did, I think, put her in a different place in the eyes of the fan. And she proved it in the ring against somebody like Stat, who's obviously our world champion, right? And that's a big deal to me. I think you're right. It really did make Marina look great. And Fernando adding, he's in agreement here. Marina proved that she should be a regular in the women's division. I couldn't agree more. And if that's what comes out of the Death Riders, you know what? Maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought. Maybe it's really not. And I don't know. Anthony, obviously, I got to get your thoughts on all of this. Talk to me about not only Marina and all of that, but also Darby and Mox headed to this I Quit match. This could be one of the most brutal matches in AEW history, and there's been some brutal ones, man.
I've said repeatedly, I am not a fan of the Death Riders. I've never understood the gimmick. Oh, we're taking over, but there was no takeover. I'm not going to rehash that. Marina's kind of benefited from this China role that she's now playing, the bodyguard to Moxley. I think you can argue she's probably benefited the most. They stuck Claudio in there because they had to have something for him to do. Same thing with Pac. Yuta. But Marina probably benefited the most, but I'm sure she can't cut a promo. So, her succeeding in the women's division, it's going to be a little difficult if she just have her fist do the talking, if that's the argument you're going to run with, or you give her a mouthpiece, whether a Stokely type. I think that's the only way it works if she goes in the women's division, or you have Mox talk for her. But I never understood why they continued the Death Riders after the blow off at All In. It made no sense to me. You're doing the big blow off, but it's not really a blow off because they're still there. I am concerned about the I Quit match because these are two guys in Darby Allin and Moxley that every time they're out there, I'm convinced they're not going to be happy unless they're either bleeding out, paralyzed, or dead, because they just go to a level that it's uncomfortable to watch. And I get the gritty realism. I've never been a deathmatch guy. So watching them, I'm like, I get it, but you're doing stuff just for the shock value. Is that really necessary for half the stuff that they do? Probably not. One of them is probably going to go Van Gogh and lose an ear at some point, just based on the track record of these two with the matches that they've been doing. I don't see Darby quitting. It's probably going to be Mox, but I think you got to take Mox off TV for a while. If he ends this match and you have him on Dynamite the next week, what is the point? I don't feel you should be doing that, considering the extreme that these two are going to go to. I think you need to sell this stuff. When Punk took on Drew and they did the Hell in a Cell match, they took them off TV for a while to sell the brutality of the match. That's what this match needs. I don't want to see either one of them on Dynamite the very next week.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You got to sell this stuff.
Donnie with Ant speaking gospel, and yes, you are.
You can't do that. And they're going to go to such an extreme.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a bloodbath because that's what those two do.
Yep.
So, what are you going to do?
All I could think about last night when I watched the end segment, and I'm just brushing my teeth about to go to bed because I watched the West Coast feed, right? So it's 10 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could think was I was at the Rumble with Rock and Mankind. I quit.
Mm-hmm.
All those chair shots. My actually, the way it worked out, my father and sister left because of the brutality of the match, and I stayed with my mom for the rest of the Rumble.
If that says anything about Clark.
Which is interesting. But I was older brother. But either way, my point is, the worst part about that to me, and we've all seen the documentary, I think, at least on this panel. And if you haven't seen Wrestling with Shadows, or not Wrestling with Shadows, it's which one is it? Beyond the Mat. I apologize.
Yes.
Wrestling with Shadows is a screw job documentary. It's Beyond the Mat. But to me, I was so young, and it wasn't necessarily the chair shots. It was how obvious that Mick was unconscious, and that they played a taped version of Mankind saying "I quit" over the loudspeakers. He didn't actually say it.
Well, that was always the plan, I think. As far as I know.
I hope not. But my thought process.
Donnie might be able to confirm that.
Yeah, my thought process is that, Donnie, trust me, I was there, man. It was a huge, whether they said it or not, it was a huge mistake. But the one thing that I would add about this is, my fear is you got to have the recording for both guys, because you do. The difference between an I Quit match and a Last Man Standing match, just on paper, is pretty obvious. Mm-hmm. You got to be conscious to quit.
Yes.
You don't have to be conscious for the other guy to be the last, or the other competitor to be the last man standing, or last woman standing, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Right? I'm afraid, given that it's Moxley and Darby, I'm not sure that there's gonna be consciousness when it comes time for somebody to quit.
That's the problem with both guys, especially Darby. Moxley's big thing is bleeding. But Darby does stuff that you go, are you trying to be paralyzed? Are you trying to have something happen?
Sting's last match. Are you kidding me?
By the way, I know that's not the topic. I absolutely hated that spot because I felt it was selfish.
What scared me to death.
Because if he would have bled out, how would that have honored Sting?
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Oh, man. No doubt. And I think we could talk about this the rest of the day, but I will say we have all kinds of different stuff going on this week here at WR. And on behalf of us three, thank you so much for tuning in today. Check out everything else. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. Of course, that's noon Pacific, 3 o'clock over on the East Coast, 8 o'clock in the UK, and 9 a.m. for my good friends in Hawaii. Thank you, everyone that tuned in. As always, have a great rest of your Thursday, and we will talk to you soon.